Good evening, Namaste, Salamat Sore. Welcome to Educator series on Manthan with Saraswathi, which features experienced educators, administrators, motivators, edupreneurs, etc. On this platform, we've had noted doctors, educationists, artists, and friends who have shared their thoughts, life experiences, and advices to the young mind and to the other viewers. I'm sure this would have benefited them in all walks of life. These interesting interviews in this series have given us a new perspective on education and broadened our vision, especially in these extraordinary times. Today is the 9th episode on Educator series, and there's many more to come. A school is an educational environment where children go to learn from teacher, and international schools promote international topics of education, building a strong foundation of cultural understanding. They are very different from state schools in respect to the curriculum, philosophy, approaches to teaching and learning, commitment to extracurricular activities, etc., etc. To know more, let's meet our guest for today, and we are delighted to have with us Andrew Paterson, Director of Schools for SIS Group of Schools. A very, very warm welcome to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning and good evening. So kindly allow me to introduce you to my audience, Andrew.
Sure.
Andrew Paterson is an Australian with a master's degree in education with 30 years of experience as an educator, 18 years of which have been in Indonesia, where he is currently the Director of Schools for the SIS Group of Schools. Starting off as an IT teacher in Australia and later teaching many secondary juniors college subjects, he was appointed as a Deputy Head and IB Diploma Coordinator in 2004. Since then, he has served as a head teacher of 3 additional schools, including leading each of them through successful authorization and accreditation process and seeing strong enrollment and academic growth. In his current role as director, he is non-voting member of the board and leads the heads of the schools that he oversees as collaborators and innovators. Andrew is passionate about growth in every sense and the power of technology as a way to improve student learning and well-being. Once again, we are very, very happy to have you with us today. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the offer.
Thank you so much. And we will start with the conversation straight away.
Okay.
Thank you. So you have been a teacher, taught many senior, junior college subjects, have been deputy head and IB diploma coordinator, served as the head teacher, and now you're the director of SIS Schools. With IT as your main subject, you could have had a golden path in the world of technology. But what inspired you to take up, a role of an educator?
Well, that's actually an interesting question because I guess for me, I wasn't originally attracted to education. When I left school, I did work in IT for many years and eventually moved into college teaching of IT before later on moving into schools. And so I guess for me, the passion came later. As I got to know the impact that you could have in a school on individual students and their families, when you could see the impact on society that a well-run school could have, when you see all the challenges that require a team of hard workers, right, to fix and to maintain year after year, those kind of things do inspire me and excite me. And so I'm very glad that my career kind of diverted from IT into teaching. I think it's very fulfilling for me. I feel like I'm making an impact every day in what I do. And yeah, and it's professionally challenging because there is such a large body of evidence and research behind what we do in schools. And I'd love to get involved in that side of things as well.
World of education is blessed to have you, Andrew. You know, you have definitely made a remarkable change in the way the education is approached, because the profound interest in education definitely is a boon to the world of education. And glad that we are having a conversation with you today because you are an educationist.
Well, it's a privilege for me to be part of it. So I enjoy my job. I enjoy going to work every day. I enjoy conversing with the kids and the teachers. It keeps me young. And so it's good for me as well.
Yeah, it keeps you young. I understand that. That's why you look young too. Yes, being in the company of children keeps us mentally active and physically fit also, and the conversation which we strike with them gives us, opens our mind also, and we get to know what the youngsters feel these days. Very good. I would like to quote Paul Hawken here. He says, good management is the art of making problems so interesting and the solution so constructive that everyone wants to get to work and deal with them. You have brilliantly managed 3 schools, leading each of them through a successful authorization and accreditation process, which we all know is a Herculean task. Share with our viewers what kept you motivated during this, because it is a very tough job to, manage 3 schools at the same time. And we would love to know your 3 mantras. How did you manage that? Viewers who are listening to us now live or later, some of them will be definitely interested in leading the team one day. So we would like to know that, such a Herculean task of managing 3 schools, how did you manage this? 3 mantras, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I guess I have developed some mantras over the years in terms of my management style in schools. The one that comes to mind first would be to always make decisions in the best interests of students. And that may seem very obvious, but actually there are many stakeholders in a school. You've got parent points of view, you've got teacher points of view, staff, you've got corporate bodies, you've got government. And so there are many different interests to think about. But I always try to bring the focus back to what is the best interest of the student. I think that's our moral, our obligation. And I think that's the right way to focus to make sure that we don't get distracted into serving other people's interests. What is going to help the student the best? So that's the first mantra. And I guess there have been many meetings in which I've said, hold on, let's focus again on the student. Let's make sure we look at their best interests. So maybe the second one, I guess, is more to do with managing people. And I've always tried to avoid, I guess, making alliances with people. There's certain teachers, certain parents, certain board members. I try to stay objective and neutral. And this is challenging in a school environment because, as you know, a school is a very relational institution. There's constant relationships to maintain and to monitor and to motivate people to come together to work toward a common goal, more so than most institutions. And so the relational side of the school is really, really important. But, I always try to focus, though, not on the individual who's advocating for a certain idea, but on what is the best decision to make in that particular case. So sometimes, for example, someone that I get on very well with, that sees things the same way that I see, who I've become friends with maybe over time, sometimes I may disagree with them and decide against what they want. And often the first time I do that, they're shocked. Oh, hold on, I thought Andrew liked me. I thought Andrew was thinking the same way that I do. And also vice versa. Sometimes someone, maybe a teacher who I am struggling with, whose performance I'm trying to improve. Maybe surprised that I actually agree with them sometimes. Because it's not about who is asking for something. It's not about who is the person behind the request. It's about what is the right thing to do in that situation.
Right.
So I think that's another mantra that I have, to try and stay objective. And I guess for me, the third one that comes to mind, I mean, there are many, right? But I think the third one that comes to mind would be to stay outcomes focused. So it's very easy to get distracted by all kinds of issues and judging people's motivations and trying to work out who is right and who is wrong. But in the end, we need to try and get to an outcome. You know, and as a principal of schools, sometimes meetings can be very emotional. There's been countless times where I've had angry parents, sad parents who are crying, where I've had people who are frustrated, people who are really happy. The whole range of emotions is there, right? And you've got to allow space for that. You've got to allow space for those emotions to be expressed. But in the end, you have to bring it down to what is the best outcome that we want here and how are we going to get there. And I guess that's been a constant mantra that I have had.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think we can, if we have to sum it up for the audience, we can say that Andrew feels that the three mantras would be decisions in the best interest of the student would be the first priority. The second would be managing people, being objective and being neutral to whatever decisions you're taking. And the third one would be to stay focused on whatever the decisions you have made or in the interest of the children. Am I right?
Yeah, the outcome. Yeah.
So it would be like, we can say that your action would speak louder than the words. So to resolve every issue and stay focused. So friends, you have listened to three mantras, which Andrew just shared. I'm sure those who are interested in leading the team one day, these mantras would help you through. So while discussing about the point which you made, that would lead me to the next question, Andrew. Like when you're dealing with a team, you have a lot of people and definitely there comes a difference of opinion and in any situation. So how do you get them to accept your ideas? Or in other words, if I would say that, how do you go about bringing cohesion among a team who disagrees? So what are the three strategies? I mean, those were their three mantras for, managing like what you felt leading the school successfully. Now, we would like to hear your, the strategies which you would follow to bring in, cohesion among the team and coming to a good decision in favor of, the children or the school.
I mean, I guess, there are many things, again, we could talk about there. I think that when it comes to conflict in a school, we shouldn't see disagreement as being a negative thing. Actually, disagreement is an important way that we get to the best decision in the end. And so I don't try to squash disagreement. I try to encourage open conversation, open communication, so that people feel heard. Because even if in the end I have to decide against what someone else wants, at least I want them to know that I've listened to their point of view and heard it and understood it, even if I didn't agree with it in the end. And so often, those conversations lead to better decisions. So I guess related to that is, in those conversations, and I do try to encourage this kind of collaborative climate. When someone else or a group of people convince me that I am wrong, I accept that I am wrong and I change my mind. Now, there are some leaders who will say, never admit you're wrong. It shows weakness. I don't agree with that. I think that if someone can show you with evidence, with good reasons, why a different way is better, then you should give up your own original plan and adopt the new way and fully support that. And I think if you do that over time, people will respect it. So I guess that's another mantra, that in some ways you get people to follow you when they can see that you have been fair, when they can see that you listen, and when they can see that over time you have made good decisions. And so I think all those things lead to a climate in which people can respect a leader and follow them.
Very nice. Very nice. I think those who are listening to us right now will definitely feel that they have gained a lot today. Your insight, how you deal with the team, and being open and accepting the ideas, letting go of your ego and keeping an open mind is so important to take decisions and to lead a team. And you are a great example in that, Andrew. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Every child is a unique individual who has innate desire to do his or her very best. Children must be valued, listened to, respected, loved, and cared for. And that is what we educators do. And we try to bring a harmony within the children and everything. Every child's individuality has to be respected, right? My question to you would be, what do you feel is an adequate measure of students' success? One will be during his school time and beyond school. And second would be, what thoughts do you feel is important about community service, Andrew? There are two aspects I'm talking about, whichever you would like to address first. The first is, what do you feel is an adequate measure of a student's success? One, in school time, and beyond the school. And the second is your thoughts on community service.
Yep.
How important is it?
Yeah, so well, I guess for both during school time and also outside of school time is similar in the sense that I think success has to be measured in contrast with a student's potential. And so I think this is very challenging for a teacher or a parent to do. It's very hard to accurately assess someone's potential. But in the end, that's an important thing that we have to do in measuring their success and our success in teaching them at the same time. Because potential is not just about a child's innate abilities. It's also about how well have we as teachers prepared them for something. How well have parents supported them? What have been the other factors? Have they been going through distance learning, for example, in a pandemic? Are there health issues in the family? There are so many things, right, that affect a student's realistic potential. And if we set the bar too high, they become discouraged and they give up. And they stop trying, right? Because we know that success breeds success. Yes. And so if we don't give them successes, they're not going to go on the right kind of pathway and trajectory. And they go into a failure cycle. So if you set the bar too high, that's the risk. If you set it too low, then you don't motivate them enough. You don't pressure them enough to reach their full potential. They end up settling for second best, right? Which you also don't want. So having some thought about what their true potential is important. And so once you've done that, I think if you have seen the child get close to or reach their potential, then they have succeeded. That's success. So that may be different for different students in the same class, of the same age, in different countries. There are all kinds of factors, right, that go into that. But success relates to their potential. So I guess that's the first general point I'd want to make.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Community services, which is in compassion. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a really important part of education, and maybe something that's not valued enough in some schools. So what the child can learn by doing something for someone else is so much more powerful than what they can learn from a textbook or from a PowerPoint presentation in a classroom. And so you've got a combination of developing social skills, communication skills. You've got stepping out of their comfort zone and trying new things. So you're developing perseverance and risk-taking. And you're also developing moral and ethical aspects, especially if the teacher can guide the experience really well and give good opportunities. So we call them learning journeys in SIS. But all kinds of field trips and out-of-school experiences, I think, are really key learning opportunities for students. And most schools should do more of them.
Yeah, Lovely listening to your significant emphasis on community service and how to, bring out the child's ability, innate ability is very interesting. Thank you for.
Yeah, well, I mean, so many parents say the same thing to me. I mean, I've had parents all the time say, "Look, we know that our child may not be an A student, but we want them to develop compassion. We want them not to feel privileged. We want them to treat everyone the same. We want them to develop compassion for people who have things less than they have." Yeah.
I think, like rightly said, the world needs compassionate hearts. Brilliant people are out there, but we need compassion, which is, going to heal the world. So the world looks forward for students who are going to be the citizens of the world to have this compassion heart for, the betterment of the society and the world.
Yeah, and it's especially important in international schools, where we often have quite privileged students in many ways, whose parents have been traveling, who are often in high positions. It's easy to become arrogant in that kind of setting and to feel that you know so much more than everyone else, right? So that's where these community service activities, as well as helping the student, they also produce that area of compassion. And when they realize, I have so many privileges and advantages myself, I've got to be compassionate for others who don't have that.
Very rightly said. And to bring in integrity into them, that's very important. So when you're talking about school and the children, so the next thing which we think about is the safety of the school and, how it goes about. As a campus leader, it's the head of the institution or the principal's responsibility to secure a safe learning environment for the students, where parents feel comfortable and secure sending the children. So in the present world scenario, with the new variant Omicron being, bringing concern, what are the measures you follow, and how should the head of the institution lead the team through this present challenge of Omicron?
Yeah, it certainly is a challenging time for leaders everywhere, isn't it, right now?
Yeah.
I think that certainly standard good management practices apply to this as they apply to everything. So things like being adaptable, as the situation changes, you have to change and be responsive. Things like minimizing risk as much as you can. Things like providing clear communication, accurate, honest communication to parents, to students, to teachers. Following government directives, protecting your teachers and staff. I mean, all those things you would normally do anyway in managing a situation, but they also apply to a pandemic. But maybe there are two things I could mention that maybe are more specific to our current situation and how the SIS Group has led our schools during this time. And I guess the first would be, we try to take our lead from the parents when it comes to how risk averse to be. Because it's their children, right, that are in our care. It's their children, and they are the ones that have to decide for themselves how much risk to accept and what's more important to them. And so we try not to be too preachy, but we try to listen carefully to our community and see what is the level of risk our community is willing to accept, and try and follow that. I guess alongside that would also then be our desire to support those that are in the minority. So even if the majority of parents want to come back to school and have more classroom activities and do more things face to face, if there are a minority of parents who really don't want to do that, who don't think that's a safe thing for their child, we have to try our best to also cater for their needs. Now, there are limits, of course. We can't do everything. We've got a limited capacity as a school. However, as much as we can, it's our desire to support those parents to get through this pandemic as best they can with their particular needs in mind.
Yeah. That's so nice of you. I mean, I like the, your thoughts saying that it is from the parents. You have to take the lead from the parents and also look into what the minority feels. So you are bringing the act of balancing between the two, and which is so important to have a very cordial relationship between the stakeholders and management of the school. So this is so Brilliantly said. When we are talking about SIS schools, the SIS program is imbibed by important life and work skills through your PACE initiative, PACE initiative, which is perseverance, analytical thinking, collaboration, communication, and entrepreneurship. So could you throw some more light on that, Andrew? Like, and briefly, maybe just.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Well, these are our desired school learning outcomes. So of course, every subject has its own outcomes that relate to that particular subject. Logarithms or biology has cells and different things they've got to learn about. But most of those things, eventually, students will forget. Students are not going to remember those things in years to come. And so school education isn't just about the facts and skills you are learning in your subjects. It's about the broader education, the broader learning, preparation for life and the world. And so these broad 4 desired school learning outcomes that you mentioned are the ones that SIS focuses on. There are many things that we try and do in a school, but you can't focus on everything. Yes. And so these are the ones that we think are the most important. These desired learning outcomes guide the kinds of activities we do in the school. They guide the examples and case studies that we might give. They guide our learning journeys, our co-curricular activities, and we measure them. And we try and make sure that we are teaching these underlying skills. So that even if the student forgets a lot of the facts that we teach, right, during schooling, they will leave our school with these characteristics.
You have spoken to us so beautifully about how you lead the team and what PACE is all about. So friends, we are in an interesting conversation with Andrew Paterson, Director of Schools for the SIS Group of Schools. He is sharing his captivating thoughts, which will be very useful for many of us. Andrew said that a positive school climate is one where individual feels valued, cared for, and respected. Such an atmosphere contributes to effective teaching and learning and to a genuine communication, both within and outside the school. Research shows that a positive atmosphere increases students' academic achievements and leads to increased self-esteem. So how can we build a positive school culture or climate in a culturally diverse school? So this is one question. And my next question would be like, if any conflict or sensitive issues arise, what is the appropriate way to handle it without hurting anyone? With your experience, what's the best way to approach it?
Yeah. So I think that the general concept of developing a positive school culture is really important because so many things depend on it. And so for me, I've found over the years that the best way to maintain a positive and vibrant school culture is to choose the leaders really well. And this is not just the director of the school or the head of the school. This is also the deputy heads and the heads of departments and the non-teaching staff, the administration leader, the department leaders. These are the people that really set the climate and the tone for all the other teachers and staff and also for the students. So I have found over the years that you can give inspirational messages, but in the end, people start to tune out to those, right? And they say, well, look, just tell us what we've got to do, right? Stick to the facts, right? Stop preaching to us. And so there's a limit to how much you can verbally inspire your team. But it's what the leaders do day by day that actually makes the difference. And so I try and put my focus there. So when I'm recruiting a leader, when I'm managing and giving advice to a leader, I am looking for the way they are building a positive climate in their section or their department. And so over the years, I've had to let some leaders go who weren't able to do that. But others I promoted quite fast because I could see that they had the potential to be the driving force, right, to build a positive school climate in the school. And so for me, leaders are the key here. And so that applies to students and parents as well. You know, the student leaders, the parent leaders who you look to guide other parents. That's where you've got to put your focus.
That's very nice to know that, that it is the positive and the vibrant setup of the leaders and the teachers and the non-teaching staff, which will give the, positive atmosphere in the school, and it will create a culture to learning. Wonderfully said. So appreciative about what you're expressing on the show here. Thank you so much, Andrew, for, telling us these simple things. Like very truly said, that nobody wants too much of verbal preaching. So like said, action speaks louder than words. So
right.
it is the positive and the vibrant staff or the leaders or the teachers who create the set, not the parents and even the students. Everybody has to be in the same rolling, ball. Only then can the positivity can come. Very, very, very nice. Thank you so much for sharing such beautiful thoughts. I want to quote Jim Rohn here. He talks about discipline, and he says that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, unquote. There are a variety of approaches that can be used with the children and teenagers. We all know that. How do you interpret the term discipline in an international setup? I mean, what is your magic word or trick you would use to get children follow them?
Okay. Well, I guess for me, discipline is in a school setting is generally about achieving compliance with the school's behaviour expectations. Now that applies to not just students, but also to teachers and staff and parents as well, because there are certain expectations we have of parent behaviour in a school community. So self-discipline is an important part of all of our lives as workers, as leaders, as citizens. And so in a school context, I guess it's part of what we teach. We want to teach students to be disciplined and to be able to manage their own behaviour in accordance with certain goals and expectations. Now, as you mentioned before, the challenging part in an international setting is coming to an agreement on what those expectations should be. Because sometimes what we expect in terms of behavior can vary a lot between cultures, between age groups, between genders, and even personalities, right? All these different things affect what we think is the right expectation to have of someone. And so we can't, of course, have that kind of huge range of expectations in a school. You've all got to have the same expectation. Otherwise, it's seen as very unfair and chaotic. You can't have different teachers with different expectations of the students. So somehow the school has to help the teachers and staff and parents come to a general agreement as a school. What are we going to expect in relation to the behaviour of our students, our parents, our teachers, our staff? And that's going to change over time. What we expected 20 or when you and I went to school, right? What we expected back then is very different to what we expect now. The world is very different now. And so you have to keep on adapting. So it's an ongoing conversation about what should we expect, what's reasonable, what's realistic, what can we enforce in the school, what is general enough that different cultures and personalities and age groups will accept it, but what is still going to guide our students to become disciplined members of their society.
Andrew, you've got a very lovely point here on this show, is that being adaptive. Yes, what time we had a set of discipline, that's definitely changed to what is in the present 21st century. So you made a brilliant point to have this adaptive. The discipline also got to be adaptive. It cannot be the rigid what it happened so many years back, 20 years back or 20. Very, very nice point. So when you say that we have to come to a general agreement, I just want to ask you a question that when you're dealing with students' discipline, at what point do you think is very apt to involve the parents?
Fairly early, but not with every small thing that happens. If the parent feels that you're calling them every day with something small, they're going to get pretty sick of that pretty quickly. So parents expect the school to handle all kinds of small things. But anything that becomes serious enough that it's going to result in some kind of action from the school, maybe a timeout or a detention or some kind of penalty, then the parent should be involved fairly quickly. So we have a system by which we notify parents at a certain level of behavior infringement. So they're fully aware of that when it happens, and they can then engage the school if they choose to about that, to discuss that, and they can ask their child about it at home. Other times, if it's serious enough, we will call the parent on the spot to make sure they're fully involved in a serious situation. So I would say not everything, but fairly soon for major issues, I would involve the parent.
So can we say that nipping it at the bud would be the best thing to do? For
more serious matters, right? So I'm not talking about talking in class. I'm not talking about forgetting to do your homework. I'm talking about things like aggressive behavior, deliberate deceit, cheating in tests, things that are a bit more important. Yes, nipping in the bud by having the parents involved quite early is the best way to go.
Very genuine thoughts expressed here. Thank you so much for it. So I feel, Andrew, we are talking about discipline, and I feel that discipline and moral are two sides of, the same coin called life. Moral is so important to strike a balance between ourselves. Staying mentally healthy is key to good health. How do you educate children on moral responsibility in a culturally diverse environment?
Yeah, this is so important, and I guess I come back to my previous answer about learning journeys, right, and about community service and how they can help us to teach values. But I think the teaching of values and moral responsibility is very important in a school. It's also the parents' job. It's not entirely the school's job, but the school should support the family, support the parents in doing this at school as well. So what I have found over the years works best is when the teachers are able to have the students discuss a particular moral situation or ethical situation and look at it from different points of view and share what they think. Why do you think this is the right thing to do in that situation or that situation? And why is this not the right thing to do? And what about this? And what about that? Sure. Even quite young students are able to do that, because students actually love to do this because they're very attuned to fairness. Now, students don't always get fairness right. They often misunderstand fairness, but they're very attuned to it. They pick it up very quickly if something is unfair. And so they all very quickly get involved in discussions about fairness and what is right and what is wrong. And so to me, that is the best way to get them to think and to develop their own set of moral values that they then act on in their lives. That's much better than, say, again, preaching to them or doing a long PowerPoint presentation with lots of to-dos, do this, don't do this, don't do this. People tune out to that. It's very boring after a while. Yes. But when there's an active discussion taking place, to me, that is the best way to teach about the right things to do in different situations.
Emphasis more on the practical things rather than more theoretical stuff.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and go on. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, students are able to do that, and I don't think that we do it enough. Whether it's in religion class or in our form room time or in our assembly time or in our learning journeys, these are all opportunities for us to pause our activities, right? And talk about what is right. What should we do? How should we treat this person who has been bullying someone else? How should we handle someone who has disappointed the class with their behavior, who's got aggressive? How do we handle our emotions? What's the right thing? All those questions are an important part of learning, an important part of what a school has to do for their students.
Splendid thoughts, template ideas. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being so open and sharing your thoughts on morals. Very nice. So, Andrew, you are passionate about growth in every essence and the power of technology, right? So, what, in your opinion, are competencies required by the students to face the challenge of the 21st century? Which skills are most important for them to be successful and for them to face the world bravely? Share your tips to the listeners and the people who are watching us. And these days the trend is, Andrew, that people don't log in the moment it goes live. They watch it at their own pace. So whenever they are listening to us, they will definitely, would admire or appreciate your thoughts. So kindly share with us that what are the competencies required for the 21st world for the children to survive?
Yeah, well, that's a great segue back to our previous discussion about our desired school learning outcomes, PACE. So I think those 4 PACE elements are really important. So let me just go through those quickly. So the first is perseverance. If there's anything that we need to make sure that our students can do before they leave school, is that they can deal with a setback, deal with a disappointment, and then keep on moving forward. Because life is going to keep on changing. And the 21st century is full of change. And with so many new things happening and new developments, we are going to make mistakes. We are going to miss out on certain occasions. We need to build in that resilience, right, to keep on going. And so we try and do that in our school in all kinds of ways by setting tasks that require perseverance. So not just an assignment that you can do in half an hour, but an assignment that will take you a whole term to work on. That's going to help the child develop those skills to persevere through all the ups and downs of that term, right, and come up with the product at the end. Bigger projects, right, that require that kind of ongoing development. So perseverance is the first. The second, analytical thinking.
Yes.
The jobs of the future are not going to be those jobs, even right now, right, are not those jobs where you just learn the skills in school and then do those things in your career. No. You're going to have to continually deal with new information, new personalities, and you're going to have to think very carefully about how to respond to all the information that we have at our fingertips right now. So not accepting the internet for whatever it gives you, not accepting leaders for whatever they say, but thinking about it and analyzing it and making sure we make right decisions accordingly. So critical thinking, analytical thinking, the ability to process, the changes in information we are faced with. Third, communication and collaboration, absolutely essential. None of us can do this by ourselves. We need each other. And more we're seeing companies and businesses operating as teams, where teams work together to achieve a goal. If you can't do that, you will limit yourself. You'll end up staying quite low in your career as a specialist in one particular area, but you will not advance. The people that will advance are those that can communicate and collaborate between cultures, between genders, between religions, between personalities, get things done by working together. And the final one, entrepreneurship and innovation, I think is also key. So again, we are seeing that the most successful people that are making lots of money and that are building big businesses and that are achieving lots of things in the social realm as well, are those that are being innovative, those that have got an entrepreneurial mindset. What new thing can we do that's going to impact my world and the world of others? Not just copying what someone did 20 years ago, right? But we are changing so fast. And so we are using robotics and virtual reality now in our schools to try and help students develop this idea of change and exploration and creating something new. Programming is part of that, coding, but also, for many of our community service activities, students might organize their own event, with their own communication skills, their own networks, go through the process of putting that event on, and seeing the result at the end. That
Right.
kind of process encourages innovation and creative thinking that I think is very important. And hopefully they will continue to keep that on, as part of their culture and personality as they go to university and into their careers as well.
Very brilliantly and very impressive way of PACE here, PACE. Definitely, this is preparing them for the 21st century. Very well said. Very well said. So, Andrew, the pandemic saw the teachers' commitment to the world of education. Teachers are the backbone of any school. So, I'm quoting Gadalf Nader here. The function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. Unquote. So, in what way do you empower teachers to be the leaders and, being role model for the students? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, teachers are leaders and role models, whether they know it or not and like it or not, and whether they're good ones or bad ones, they are. And so I think for me, my focus tends to be on making sure they're good leaders and good role models. Because, I've seen teachers, who have not been good role models, that have not had a good influence, on their team. So I think it's important for a school, and this is where I come in as a director and as a school leader, to make sure that we have teachers in place leading and being role models in an effective way. And I'm not one of those who says, I just trust the teachers. Let them do their job. Don't monitor them. Don't evaluate them. I don't believe that. I believe that there are good and bad role models. There are good and bad leaders in our teaching structure. And it's the job of leaders to make sure we weed out the bad ones and promote the good ones. And that's an important part of a leader's job. And so that's where my focus is. And so I think that I create that empowerment for teachers to lead by having good leaders in that situation. And so often it's about the teachers, I guess personality is part of it as well. There's also about their maturity. So teacher maturity is part of it. How good are they at critical thinking? How insightful are they about themselves and about their students? Affects how well they communicate to those students. Are they boring or are they exciting? Are they humorous or are they just deadpan the whole time? All these things go into making an inspirational teacher who can be a good role model for their kids. So as a school leader, I try and monitor that and try and make sure that I'm talking to the sub-leaders and other teachers about how different teachers are doing, and then intervene if I feel that a teacher is going in the wrong direction, to make sure that we maintain those standards.
It's very nice. So you seek charming teachers who can captivate the students to become leaders, to guide the world, and guide first and then guide the world, right?
Exactly. So a good teacher isn't just someone who knows their subject knowledge and can talk about it. A good teacher is someone who can, like you said, be a good role model and be a good example for their students and develop a relationship with them. That's what a good teacher is.
People who are listening to you today would definitely think that you are a true leader in every sense. That's why you are the director of 3 schools, because your philosophies, your thoughts, and your ideas are so very captivating that it's so important for people who are listening to us to learn this from you today. And I'm sure they'll be benefited, So before I end the show, Andrew, I always ask a question. See, you have had 30 years into the field of education. You are. So definitely you would have had some favorite, you would have had so many favorite moments. So I want you to share, what was your favorite moment of an educator, Andrew?
Well, it's really hard to identify one particular moment. There's been so many. But maybe I could talk about a couple of different categories of things that do encourage and inspire me. I guess one is when I've been involved in a particular event or activity that's gone really well, we've been successful, met the objectives, we've seen the students grow, and then as a result, that makes me feel great. So, for example, say I was involved, and I have been involved in some school musicals, for example, or a school play, and it's a success, right? The night is great, and the parents love it, and the students love it, and they've learnt so much along the way. I go home just feeling inspired and great that it's been so successful. So I am personally motivated by doing a good job and having things that run well and go well and meet their objectives.
Any personal moment you would like to say? Any personal thing? Do you sing? Can you sing a song for us, or just?
No, I'm not a singer. But however, there are many emotional moments along the way, you know, and at the end of the year, we have teachers who share something about their experience at the school as they leave, right? Or we have students, maybe on graduation, who might share a testimony. And so I get touched emotionally in those situations when there's genuine outpouring, right, of thankfulness for the school or for me as an individual, for what we have brought to their lives. So yeah, graduation ceremonies, times when teachers leave and just share their thanks, those are special for me.
Very nice. See, that shows you have, you know, the compassion in your heart just pours out at that moment. And I think I can relate that as a teacher myself, as an educator myself, that yes, those are the moments when children come to you and, you know, they show their gratitude and they express their feelings, or they testify, you know, how the whole journey has been, how they have grown. It just touches your heart. Thank you so much for sharing such beautiful thoughts. So yeah, I would like to end the show here with an amazing thought by George Bernard Shaw. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. I want my friends to ponder over this and enjoy the weekend. Once again, I want to thank Andrew Paterson for taking his time out from his busy schedule and sharing his extraordinary thoughts and wisdom with us. It was an honor having you on my show, Andrew.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure I'll see you around somewhere, yeah?
Sure, Andrew. And it's been an honor, honestly. Thank you very much for everything. Kindly like the page Manthan with Saraswathi. And this is Saraswathi Suresh saying bye-bye. Keep watching and see you in my next episode. Namaste.
Namaste.